Welcome another episode of Unsavory Fellow. I'm Nick James, and I'm super thrilled to have my guest, Barbie Herron
Conkling.
Man, it's great to see you here. I'm seriously though.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks
I've
for
gotten to
having me.
hear your story
Yeah.
in the rooms.
Yeah.
And I think I even remember when you were pretty new and fresh, and I remember hearing you speak somewhere. You might have had 9 months. I'm not joking.
That could be very accurate.
And I remember going, "Wow!" It moved me. It touched me. And then I've heard you a few times, years and years, and now you're sober. What, 13, right?
13 years, yeah.
And you've had this incredible big life, which I'd love to just jump right into.
Let's jump in. Yeah, I mean it's like a kaleidoscope of many, many colors. And thank God I've been sober the last 13 years, because the shit that has been presented to me in my life,
right,
has not been soft and easy.
Yeah.
And I've been able to hold on to my sanity,
right,
because I've been sober.
And you grew up in Malibu,
Which is wild in itself. It's like,
and people don't. I think what people don't understand.
realize,
no,
yeah.
they think, oh, Malibu.
Yeah.
No, that's not your story.
No, we're like generations deep Malibu. My family bought property out there in the late 40s. And
wow.
My mom grew up out there, and anyone from LA knows old Malibu was like, It was too far away. So a lot of people who, couldn't afford town would actually buy property in Malibu, because it was just, rural and cheap and affordable and very blue collar. So my grandpa bought 14 acres, like
Incredible.
right adjacent to Point Doom. And, my mom, they grew up on like 14 acres and then subdivided, and it was 6. But horses and chickens, and, my mom was a wild one. She was a race car driver.
That's right.
And she loved...
She was a race car driver. What kind of cars was she racing?
For her 17th birthday, she got a 66 Chevelle, like off the lot.
Wow.
And it was a big block. And she just, my grandpa kind of would instill, these anti-feminist ideologies in her.
Yeah.
And so it was like her mission to, defy that.
Wow.
And so she started street racing as, an 18, 19-year-old, and met my dad actually through street racing. Actually, Jason Storrs, his dad was friends with my dad, and they did the introduction of my parents.
Really?
Yeah. So our parents were friends.
I know he grew up with you.
Yeah.
He's told me that before, but I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah. So they were like part of this whole like muscle car, hot rod, street race scene. And it was fucking wild. It was wild. It was like dirt bikes, hot rods, horses, and, it was just kind of this wild, blue-collared, our little dive bar, the Doom Room, was the staple. Did you ever go to the Doom Room?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
I had a buddy who was I used to go to I was a bartender at the Malibu Sea Lion.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, in the 80s.
I did every birthday party there.
You did?
Yeah.
The Screaming Clam, was that around when you were?
No, I don't remember this. I mean, I know of the Screaming Clam, but it wasn't like a staple.
Yeah.
I remember the Sea Lion.
That didn't last long.
I would get the Shirley Temple and try to like, tie a knot with the cherry stem. Like that.
I probably saw you.
For sure.
I was there forever.
For sure. Yeah, that was like a staple in our family.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was just totally different than the Malibu it is today.
Yeah.
And Jay and I definitely were dirty little Groms, back in the day, and, just grew up together and partied together and Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know for me, like you'd go out to, like you said, you'd find, you could go, I remember going out and surfing Little Doom, and I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing these like adults, it just were wasted on the beach, just, about to paddle out after they smoked a doobie down there. And I remember there was a sort of a freedom that I could see that they had that I didn't have where I lived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. I was thinking about that on the way here. Sometimes I share about this like wild kind of unruly childhood. And I forget to circle back to what a blessing that was, because it taught me like survival skills, and
Yeah.
it was wild.
Why was it wild? Like,
It was wild because there, in our house in particular,
Yeah.
like my mom, and I love my mom, and I'm just going to start there in case I forget to circle back, because sometimes I do.
Right,
Like, she's rad, and
Right.
she's solid, and she is original and will not conform or change for anyone. And I have so much respect for her for that. But back in the day, she loved men that wore leather vests and different patches. So there were a lot of like Harleys were part of that.
Really?
She loved like badass men.
yeah.
And so it was kind of this like rotating door of, a lot of different clubs coming into our house. And, there was just no, I do use the word neglect, because as a little girl, like I needed a certain kind of love
Yeah.
and affection and a safety net.
So was your dad they were not married
No.
anymore?
No, my dad left when I was 6 months old, and he was a race car driver too, and he ended up moving back to Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he has worked on hot rods his whole life and built engines, and he's been married 6 times, and my mom was married 4.
And so you're with your mom,
I was with my mom,
living
and
on the 6 acres.
3 brothers.
And 3 brothers.
Yeah. And they were all just, it was like motocross, motorcycles. It was just every action sport.
Yeah.
And then there was like oversensitive little Barbie who just needed a fucking hug. Like, I just needed a hug. I'm like, I just need someone to hold me.
You're the only girl,
and
too.
brush my hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom, had a lot of testosterone in the
Yeah.
sense of like, she just wanted to like race with all the men and do all the men stuff. And I just wanted to go really get my nails done. And like,
Really? So you weren't following in that?
no. And she was like, it obviously skipped a generation. And now it's like, 2 brothers are no longer with us. And
The 2 brothers, yeah.
so my 2 younger brothers have passed on, and one was a skateboarding accident, and one was, an OD.
Wow.
And
How old were they?
John was 29 and Steve was 40.
And so that was like a big part of your growing up, right? Obviously. And
Yeah.
that was like in your household. Was that something that your mom kind of allowed, or you know what I mean? Like my house
like
was
the
like
partying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. My mom was like a partier.
Oh, okay.
She's one of us that never made it into the rooms, but just kind of like white knuckled it, and she'll be like, I'm sober. And then, she'll be at like the track, NHRA track, and there's like free tequila, and she'll just get shit faced. And, that's where
Yeah.
she's like classic. I'm like, you go, girl. Like, if you don't,
Yeah.
if you can do that, amazing.
Right.
But there wasn't a lot of discipline. There wasn't structure. It was really, we were the party house. Like, we were the house. Okay, I'm just going to preface. My mom met husband number 4 when I was 16 years old in prison. And so majority of...
Wait, he was in prison or she was in prison?
He was in prison.
Okay.
And she met him because her best friend got married, and she was like, stood up for her. And then my stepdad came out and stood up for the other guy. And they were at CMC. And so she went every Thursday to Sunday up to San Luis Obispo. And so from Thursday to Sunday, our house was, free for all.
Right,
With
there's
me and my
nobody that-
brothers.
yeah.
And so everyone knew that.
And
the
how old are you
weekend-
then?
I was
Like when that's going on?
like 16, 17, 18, 19,
Wow,
20.
prime age.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
then
so there's nobody there.
no one's there.
You and your brothers.
And we were wild. Yeah. And I had a baby by then.
How old were you?
Just to skip around. I got pregnant when I was 16, and
Wow.
I had him when I was 17.
Life's going fast.
It's going fast. I mean, I look at like my daughter when she was 16, and I was like, what the, like, it just blows my mind, because by the time I was 16, I had like, had a 2-year meth habit, like,
Really?
like dropped out of school, was like touring with the Grateful Dead, like just
did?
acid every day.
Oh,
I mean,
you were running.
I was running, yeah. And just because I was never shown structure or
Right.
discipline, and it was never enforced, like, you need to go to school and get good grades. And, my mom was just like, I can't even with you four. Like we were all wild, and she was just
Yeah.
like doing the best she can, and we ran
Right.
the show.
And so when you were 16, were you, before you got pregnant, did you ever have anything like did you have friends that were like, I had friends that were doing good in school. I got kicked out like you and I just talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I was going on another path, and I was down that path, and I was past the point of, no return, right? And I had friends though that were able to sort of pull it off, and they had their families involved and their
Yeah.
parents, and I would be envious of that. Was there any of that for you?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. I would have, friends who would like party on the weekends,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "No, my mom's making me. I've got a tutor coming, or I've got to get good grades." I mean, even my best friend like graduated, and she was, kind of a fuck up like me.
But she
I'm
made
like,
it.
"How did you do it?"
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do it. And I remember that envy too. Like there were many times in my teenage years where I really needed to go to rehab. Like I was really struggling, and
Like, did you know that? Did you go?
Yeah, and all
I
my
need
friends
this,
got
I
to
need-"
go.
Oh, they did.
yeah, all my friends
So you
were like
knew.
at Exodus. It was like
Yeah.
the only rehab back in the day. Like, and they're like, they're at Exodus having this like comfortable detox, and I'm home, just struggling by myself. But yeah, that whole undeserving feeling
Yeah.
came early, where I'm just like, I felt undeserving of clean clothes and food in the fridge and
Wow.
going to rehab and having a tutor, so
Just simple, regular, everyday stuff.
yeah. So, and that just kind of falls into like, I just needed a hug.
Yeah.
I just needed to feel safe and supported and loved. And I did. My mom loved us to death. She really
Yeah.
did. It was just, she was a wild one.
Yeah.
Like it's,
And so you got pregnant
so I got
at 16.
pregnant.
Boyfriend, or like somebody you were?
It was like a summer
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
No, but we actually like didn't even like each other. Like it was one of those very
Wow.
awkward, weird relationships. And I got pregnant, and it was never a thought in my head to have an abortion. And I think underlying there was just this maternal gene that I had that I couldn't wait to be a mom. And I don't know if it was,
Wow.
I just had somewhere to funnel this love, knowing that I would receive this unconditional love. Like, I don't know if it was this subconscious thing. But when I found out I was pregnant, it was just all the drugs stopped, the cigarettes stopped, and I'm 16 years old, just ready
Wow.
for this child. And
That's amazing. That's unusual.
it was really
you don't
unusual.
Hear that.
No, it was really unusual.
Like, you stopped. I'm having this baby.
Yep. Yeah. And I
That's
was like, This
amazing.
is it.
And was this Lyon?
This was Lyon. Yeah. And I was sober-ish throughout that pregnancy. I like towards the end, I remember I drank some wine and smoked some weed, but like I was really good.
Yeah.
And I share this sometimes when I speak, because it's really important. When they put him on my chest, it was that like soul recognition. Like I
Yeah.
just recognized this child, this soul, and that feeling of, I will take a bullet for you. Like, it's you and me against the world. It's my job to be your protector, and I got you. But what I didn't know was, the untreated alcoholism was
Right.
just picking up steam. And, when he was like 2 months old, I was leaving him with strangers, and my disease was bigger than
Wow.
that love. And that's scary. Like, I have to remember that power of this maternal love, that feeling that I just thought there was nothing that could ever implode that. And my disease is bigger, untreated. And
Can you remember, like, when did you have an understanding of that? Like, was there a time where you went, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, it's got me"?
yeah, it was
And
that guilt.
I'm even pushing my son.
I remember there was like a week went by, and then I was like going into week number 2, and it was that guilt and shame. Like, this beautiful child who chose me to be his mom needed me, and I would like kind of come to in the morning, because I would, back then it was like I was on this massive meth run, so it was like 9 days of
Radical.
no sleeping, psychosis, just that crazy. And it would just kind of creep in, like, oh my God, like I've got to get back to him. Like, I've got to show up and be his mom. And
And where is he at this time while you're on
so
these runs?
it was like these young babysitters, that
Yeah.
were like, had their own life.
Like your
14,
age.
15. No, they were younger than me.
Wow.
They were like 3-4 years younger than me. There was like a crew of little Malibu girls, and he would kind of bounce around from house to house. and these little girls' moms and them. It was just, it's so shitty when I think about. But that's like the incomprehensible demoralization for me, like as a mom and having this really deep maternal gene, you know, knowing that like that's where my disease took me. And so the guilt and shame, you know, I'd like, oh my God, it was too much for me to walk through. The feelings were too big. So, you know, I would get caught in this hamster wheel of like, the only way I can quiet the mind and like shut those feelings down is just to like, one more day, get loaded, one more day, get loaded. And, you know, that went on for a while.
How long?
Like 2 years.
And what happened at 2 years?
At 19, I tried to get sober for the first time, and I just wasn't ready.
Right.
Wasn't ready. I was just out of what I needed, and I went to Cabo, met a guy named Ken. Ken was on the bucket list. Couldn't do Ken sober. Like that was a whole thing.
He's
like
laughing.
it's a true fucking story.
Ken and Barbie.
Yeah, I was like,
From
literally,
Malibu.
I had a bucket list in my life, and I was like, Ken was written on it. I was like, I gotta do a Ken.
Right.
And
That's
I
fucking
met this
amazing.
Ken, and I was sober, and I was like, I don't know if I can do Ken. So that was like my relapse. Like, give me a shot of tequila, and proceeded to get wasted, and came back, and never made it back into the rooms until 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how many years out there from, so it was from 19. So you were what age when you finally made it back?
37.
37.
Yeah. And my disease like ship-shaped it. You know, it was whatever situation I was in. You know, I was married to someone who was sober, and
But you weren't.
and I wasn't. And so I knew alcohol had to be scent free. And so then it turned into the pain pills that Lyon was being prescribed. And then I blew that marriage up.
Because you just said that Lyon, if you could go back, and you said that Lyon was being prescribed because what we didn't get into.
We're skipping. I apologize.
No.
There's a lot.
But
It's a
he was,
kaleidoscope.
but this is setting up this, you know, the setting up your story, which is, incredible for people, I think, for people to understand. And then you have your son who's diagnosed with an illness, right?
Yeah, I was 21. I was 21 when I found his first tumor on his body. I got him out of the bath. There was a golf ball sized tumor on his left hip, and had no idea what it was. And I was 6 weeks pregnant with my daughter.
And how old was he?
4.
He was 4.
He was
And you were 6 weeks with your daughter now.
6 weeks pregnant. Yeah. And I have 3 kids from 3 different dads. So it's not like there's this stable story throughout.
Right.
So don't be fooled.
I'm already getting that picture.
Yeah, just. And so I took him to the doctor, and he was like, it's a desmoid tumor. We did a needle biopsy, and I'm like, what the fuck is a desmoid tumor? And the doctor was like, it could just happen. Maybe he bumped his hip and it grew. It's primarily in like pregnant women, desmoid tumors. And then 2 years, so we removed the tumor. 2 years later, within the 2 years, he just had like every sign of colon cancer. And I was just this like single mom, just taking him to doctor after doctor, and misdiagnosed. Finally, you know, from a payphone, Yellow Pages, called a gastroenterologist at UCLA. They did a colonoscopy, and he was diagnosed with Gardner syndrome, which is a really rare genetic mutation that creates all these different cancers. And so he was 7, and 4 months later, he had a full colectomy, his colon and rectum removed, and an ileostomy bag, and that just started this journey of, you know, this incurable.
How old was he when that?
He was 7.
7.
When he had his colectomy.
And I have to ask, because how does a 7-year-old handle that?
You know, as loaded as I was, like, I look back now and I'm grateful for the references that I was able to share with him. You know, we shared a room with this little boy who was on his, I think, 5th liver transplant. And I think this little boy was like 6 or 7. His body just kept rejecting. It was insane how many like livers were gifted to this child. And this little boy couldn't have his morphine pump because of his liver. You know, he needed his liver to take. So he was like raw dogging this liver transplant, and
Oh
his
my God.
parents were Hispanic, working, who couldn't be there, who had to provide. You know, they had other kids. His name was Alejandro. We'll never forget him. And they shared this room for a couple months, and Alejandro would just cry throughout the night. It was just constant, and Lyon would like get frustrated,
Yeah.
you know, because he needed to sleep, and he couldn't eat for 5 days after his colectomy. And that was this reference point. I was like, sweetie, like, you have people with you. You're holding this pain pump. Like, it can always be worse. And this is like your reference point moving forward. Like,
Yeah.
it can always be worse. And that was like the example. And we held on to Alejandro his entire life. Like, it can always be worse.
And are you, when you're telling him this, because I'm just, as a parent, right? As you're telling Lyon this, so how are you able to believe that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you believe it, or are you just doing it?
No, I believe it because the example was right there.
So you're
Like,
getting the same example.
I'm having the same experience,
Wow.
you know, and I'm
Yeah.
able to like just kind of highlight what's
Yeah.
obvious in our room. And then just throughout, like, you know, once chemo started, and, you know, there were years of chemo, and Lyon like never lost his hair. And I'm like, dude, like, you know, you're
all
on the
these little
chemo
things.
that like you get to keep your hair, and
Right.
these kids are bald. So it was like there were always these reference points, like the silver linings. It can always be worse. And then the disease started to take us on these adventures, right? Like stem cells in Germany, and the Malibu Invitational, you know, the surf contest for him, where he got to like make out with Paris Hilton when he was 15. And
No way,
you know, there were just
really?
always these things that we would hold on to. And I was like, look at all the people you've gotten to meet, and the
Yeah.
adventures and the travel, and, you know, your brain is just expanding, and your heart is expanding. And so
How's he, when you're telling him this and these things are happening, what's he?
no, he got it. He got it. I
And
mean,
he's-
Lyon he was born this like soul that was too big for his body,
Right.
you know, so he really absorbed you know, this higher frequency of every experience that he went through. You know, we would be at UCLA oncology, and he would make friends with every single nurse. He would walk in there, he'd go straight into the nurse's room with all their computers. He would pull up like surf videos and hijack every single nurse and show them like all the surf videos. And I mean, he would be like slapping independent stickers on the back room, and they were just like, Lyon's here, you know, like
That's
he
amazing.
and they loved him. They loved him. I mean, at his, I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm going to jump ahead because
Yeah.
we'll circle back. At his memorial, doctors from like his entire childhood and life, oncologists, surgeons showed up. It was crazy at Duke's. Like, I would turn around and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was like his pediatric oncologist. And that was, I mean, people loved him because his spirit was just so loving and so compassionate and so big.
And when this is going on and he's going through all this, how are you? I mean, because you're still using, right?
Yeah, I got to stay numb.
Yeah, so that's what you're doing.
I got to stay numb. But
Yeah.
it was a tightrope. Like, it literally felt like I was like holding this bar and just walking this tightrope where I'm like, I have to stay numb enough because these feelings are too big and I don't know how
Yeah.
to walk through them. The fear of death, the fear of losing him,
Yeah.
the fear of the unknown. You know, just how am I going to get through the next thing? Like, it was just too big. The feelings were too big. And I just felt unsupported in those early years. And then, you know, on the other side, it was like, but I can't get too fucked up because I
Right.
can't lose it all. And I can't
And are you
crumble.
not? Are you able to like not or?
So it was this dance that I really tried to master for a decade. You know, it was like
Yeah.
just kind of staying numb enough to keep walking, to keep the feelings away from my heart, to be able to
Yes.
show up. And I feel like, you know, I definitely blew things up along the way, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like I was in my teenage
Yeah.
years where I was like leaving him.
You
at
had
the
to grow
hospital.
up instantly.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there were times, you know, like in the hospital, we'd be there and I would steal his pain meds and other
Right.
things. And doctors would be like trying to wake me up to like give me updates when they would, you know, do their
Yeah.
rounds. And I would just be like out. And
but you know, it's not only that's so like, I mean, I totally see that. I totally like, you go, of course.
how do you survive?
Fucking of course.
Yeah.
How do you, exactly.
Yeah.
this is what I have to do. You know?
It was my survival.
Yeah.
You know, like I look back at my addiction during those years and I was like, that's just what it required for me to survive, because I didn't know how. Like, it was too much. And it kept me alive. You know, I don't know if I didn't have that tool to keep me numb in a weird way, like what would have happened. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But it eventually did blow up. Everything did blow up.
What happened?
Well, I blew up the marriage to the sober guy, because you've got, you know, the sober guy, the treated alcoholic and the untreated alcoholic.
Which is wild. Like, how long were you guys together?
We were together for 9 years.
So he's with his wife.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. How is he staying
I'm, like,
in that?
Really smart, and I'm really good. So like I would focus and hone in on smart in that way. Like,
No, I know, but I get it. You know what I mean?
it's like that master manipulator.
The drug addict smart.
Yes. And so I was like his least suspect.
Right.
And so my whole thing was like, how much can I manipulate and get away with?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would blame stuff on his mom. Like I played a pretty solid game.
Right.
And so where I knew where to hide stuff, I knew, and I would always do, like, we would go out to dinner and I would have half a glass of wine and be like, I can't finish it.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I knew how to play the game. And so I really became like,
that's really good.
yeah. No,
That's what's like planning.
it was like
way ahead.
outsmarting him. I was trying to outsmart him until, you know, it really blew up and really bad decisions were made and it backfired on me. And I moved into my mom's garage at 34 years old. And by then, Lyon, you know, had done like years of chemo and surgeries and just major, major stuff. And he was entering his teenage years and he was like, oh, so mom parties like this, so it's cool. Like, I can party like that.
Right.
And the guilt and shame that came with that, where I'm like, oh my God, I fought so hard to keep you alive. And like, who am I to tell you you can't, you know? And I would try to, and he'd be like, what are you talking about?
So
like,
was he partying then?
yeah. So he started partying and I was like crashing the high school, like keg parties, you know, just
Really? Here's my mom.
Yeah. He was like, what are you doing here? I was like, I had you when I was like 16.
No
like,
way.
I got years to make up.
So you're crashing his?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine mom doing that though?
Yeah. I was that mom. But we were also 16 years apart. And so Malibu, it's like generations kind of blend.
Right.
So in my head, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But
it's funny though.
But I was also in my 30s. Like, I don't need to be going to the high school keg
But
parties.
I mean, it's going to be honest, maybe it's inappropriate, but what young guy, you know, at that age, you'd be like, look at this hot mom's here. You'd be welcoming her.
Lyon did not like that. If
of
any
course
of his
not.
friends ever called me hot, he was like ready to, like,
of course.
their
But that's
ass.
kind of like, you know, you're showing up at the party.
yeah.
So then
So
where do you
bad.
go from there?
So then I'm in the garage and I proceed to really get sick, like really sick, because I didn't have like the AA warden watching me, and, you know, once things blew up, because I wanted nothing to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, I wanted just nothing to do with it. I was like, no way. And so it was just this freedom to really get unhinged.
Had you go because you'd gone at 19, right?
I went at 19.
So that's when you got your first taste of it, and you're like, "Fuck this! I'm not doing this."
Well, then I had a brother who was really, really sick, and then I would hear stories of my ex-husband. I was like, I wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I started to do the comparison.
I see. Yes.
Where I was like, not that bad.
They're alcoholics and drug addicts.
Yeah.
Not me.
Because the truth is I never put a needle in my arm, and that was my thing.
Yeah.
As long as I don't do that. But I did everything else, and I would take everything else just without a needle.
Right.
But that was my gauge, where I was like, as long as I don't do that, like, I'm good. Like, I haven't like crossed that line in the sand.
Right.
That was my line in the
I
sand.
see.
And so it was a very dangerous way to think, because it kept me sick for a really long time. And so Lyon was partying, you know, March 29th, 2012. Just everything was blown up. You know, it just felt like it was like living in the garage. My daughter, young teenage, needed mama. I did not know how to show up. I couldn't show up for her because I couldn't even show up for myself. There was just this like deep-rooted self-hatred.
Yeah.
It felt like my soul had just checked out and was like, we're here when you're ready, but like way too toxic. And Lyon was like, running amok, partying just the way I was, and the guilt and shame. It was just.
And how's he feeling, like, health-wise
So tumors started to grow. Like, we had major surgeries, major chemo, and there were like moments in his life where a couple years, here and there, where everything was stable. The tumors were stable. They were there, but they weren't growing.
So and when you get these 2 years, is there hope that, like, okay, we're going to beat this?
It was always kind of that, like, we don't know what's around the corner, but for right now, you've got this time, so go live. And he would, would like, he lived so big, like towed in 30-foot waves at sunset, swam with great whites in Australia, just every kind of big bucket list thing, like he did. So he would like go live his life when he had these windows. And so I surrendered that morning, March 29th. And, my daughter really played a huge part in it. I had picked her up after being up all night, and she was at her little girlfriend's house, and I had to take her to school. It was 10th grade. She was in 10th grade. And I was not a vision for you at all. Smelled terrible, just, smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes from like midnight to 6 in the morning. Yeah. And before she got out of the car, she looked at me and she said, "You're disgusting," just in that little snappy. And I remember going home and just thinking like how many times I'd been called disgusting in my life, but for whatever reason, like that one landed different. It hit different. And that was like the surrender. It was just like, I'm 37 years old. My daughter, my only daughter, is calling me disgusting. My son is partying the way I am. My little guy was like 5.5 at the time. And am I going to do this to him too? Like, what is this? And it was just kind of, it felt like the veil lifted a little bit in that moment where I felt supported, by something I couldn't see and I couldn't understand. And I called a girlfriend who had 21 years clean, and I was just like in tears and hysterics, like, I need help. And she was like, finally, and got me to my first meeting since I was 19. And, by the grace of God, like, I have stayed because life started kind of happening right away. Yeah.
And, like, what was going on?
Good and bad. Like, I met my husband 3 weeks into my sobriety, and he was a huge piece of me staying. Like, beyond, like, not wanting to feel the way I felt that morning. And, clearly the wreckage was beyond. But we were set up on a blind date because he was 16 years sober, and my business partner was like, "Oh my gosh, I have the perfect guy for you." And I'm still detoxing. Like, I'm still sweating it out. And she's like, "He's a single dad, 2 kids. He's got a job. He's sober. He surfs. He likes vintage cars." It was just kind of like he wears Converse and Levi. It was like checking everything. And I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm still like Epsom salt baths, like sweating it out. And so we met up, and he was like, "Oh, I heard you're sober." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "How much time do you have?" And I was like, "I have some time." I had 3 weeks. I knew better not to tell him. And that was like and then I sent him a picture of my 60-day chip. And he was like, what is this? Whose is this? And I was like, "That's mine." He was like, you said you had time. And I was like, fucking 3 weeks. Like, are you kidding me? Like, every accumulative 24 hours, that was like a victory. I'm like, that's time.
That's true.
That is some time. Yeah. And so we've been together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
One of the gifts right there.
Right. So that was like one of the gifts really that kept me going. But then like Lyon's tumor started growing, and Lyon actually got sober on November 1st, 2014. And it really was like a mix of, he saw my life get better. He saw Rich come into my life. He saw me, really working hard to clean up the wreckage and to create stability and consistency and a softness. And he saw me like heal relationships, and it was attractive to him. He was
Yeah.
like, whoa, like mom's kind of turning into a totally different person.
Right.
And then the tumor started growing, and I was like, dude, it's time to wrap it up. Like the alcohol's like feeding these tumors.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just need Halloween. It was like mid-October, and he's like, there's a big party on Halloween. And I was like, after Halloween, like that's it.
Yeah.
And he woke up like half in, half out of a jacuzzi November 1st. Like naked at a party, just it was like he was that guy.
A real alky.
And November 1st was his sobriety day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then just, like I said, life started happening.
Yeah.
Woolsey fire burned our house down. My brother was like, it was just kind of like OD after OD, like life support, hospital, just real intense life. 2018, we were really battling Lyon's tumors, like taking him to Mexico to, a cancer hospital down there, and just seeking, and then it felt like the walls were closing in. And in 2019, I just felt like it was this soul download to get. I felt like I was pushed to explore death more. By then, I had lost a lot of people, and
yeah, because by this time had you lost your brothers?
I lost my first brother.
Your first brother.
Yeah, in 2008 skateboarding.
Okay.
And then and after one of my second brothers, he was on life support for like 15 days.
Was that the skateboarding?
No, this was an overdose.
Okay.
And I just held space with him in neutrality. Like I would just go to the CCU and just be in complete neutrality, and I wasn't afraid. And I was like, there's something here. Like my soul was just like getting nudged. And so I became a death doula.
Yeah, can you explain that? Because I was looking at
Yeah.
You sent me your bio. I was looking at like, what is that?
Yeah. So there's birth doulas,
Which
and it's
is?
people who help babies be born.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the liaison between the doctors and the woman giving birth. And it's like holding more sacred space, explaining, doing whatever the birth doula does. And so what I do as a death doula, it's kind of like A to Z, advanced, death directives, hospital support, and then hospice. And, my mission really is to bring in ceremony and ritual.
So how do you do, like, let's say someone's...
So I did it with Lyon the most beautifully. Like,
yeah, tell me about that.
So, just to kind of fill in these blanks, I lost my brother in 2022. And it was like holding the dichotomy of these two emotions where Lyon went on life support the same day my brother left.
Oh.
And so it was the intensity, and then Lyon woke up, and it's like, how do you hold like the grief and the joy at the same time? And that was really this pivotal moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the rarest thing. Oh, how bizarre.
It was like within 30 minutes of each other too.
No
It's
shit.
like they like crossed each other, in the veil. I feel like it was this soul contract that the two of them had. It was really wild.
Wild.
And then Lyon, just the next like year and a half just started to get sicker and sicker, and so many hospital stays, like months at a time, and he would get home and it would just be like, Mama, why? And I'm like, what's the lesson? Like we came here, our souls came here with this like karmic blueprint to learn what we came here to learn and teach what we came here to teach. And we would just always talk about how the suffering was never in vain. There was something so much bigger. And I would just tell him, I'm like, I trust your soul. Your soul's going to know when it's time, when the suffering outweighs the quality of life.
It's so hard for me to get my head around how you're dealing with that perspective, right? I know the boy in the room, Alejandro, but it's like
that was like
now
the
it's like
early like rip the Band-Aid off.
What was?
Alejandro was
Right,
just kind
right,
of like
right.
that was this like early beginning reference point. And throughout the 13 years, or back then it was like 11 years, when Lyon was really what I learned, and so much of it was just like hints of Buddhism, hints of Hinduism,
Mm-hmm.
you know, walking with Mary and Jesus, you know,
Right.
like I just kind of incorporate like
Yeah.
what feels right for me.
So
And
you're along the way because you're going down this path with Lyon together. It's like
yeah,
that's what it sounds to me like. You guys are learning this together. You're on
yeah,
this shared path,
yeah,
and you have each other. This is how we're gonna figure this thing out. How are we
yeah.
gonna do it?
And we would
Right?
explore, you know, what does our spirituality look like? Like, what does the God of our understanding look like? Like, what is that?
So are you having conversations?
All day long.
Wow.
All day long. We'd be in the hospital for days, months. You know, it was just like all we would do is talk. And we would talk about, you know, the soul's contract and why we're here and earth school and the flesh suit. And if we unzip the flesh suit, like what's underneath that? And like, you know, how do you keep your vibration high and nothing's in vain, you know,
Yeah.
nothing's in vain. And so we really just kind of, you know, took on this, like everything was a lesson, you know, and we're here to learn. And so when he surrendered to go into hospice, it was November 29th. It was my brother John's birthday, who died in the skateboarding accident. That was the day where he was like, it's time, mama. I was like, all right, like, I know how to hold the space with you. Let's do this. And
He said it's time, meaning
it's time for hospice. Because up until that point, he was on everything, you know, medical intervention, keeping him alive. TPN, which was like nutrients. He had drains, PICC lines, a PCA pump for the pain. You know, it was, the suffering was definitely outweighing the quality of life at that point. Like he hadn't surfed in a couple years,
yeah.
couldn't go in the water. And, you know, I share this a lot. And it's so beautiful. It's like this identity that he had created of Lyon. It was like the tan Mickey Dora, you know,
Yeah.
esque surfer, motocross rider, just charismatic,
Handsome.
beautiful, handsome,
So handsome.
beautiful human. One by one, you know, those things were stripped away. It's like, you know, his style and steez that he just, you know, loved. You know, it was like sweatpants with pockets to hold the drains, and this beautiful golden bronze skin, you know, became pale and translucent, and the muscles just, you know, deteriorated into like skin and bones, and he couldn't go in the water, he couldn't write, you know, so it's like this identity just melted away. And really, like, that's the test. Like, what is left after all of that? You know,
Yeah.
when the identity or the attachment to the identity is melted away. And, you know, with Lyon, it was just pure heart and compassion. It was just his soul was so big for this tiny, frail, broken body. And, you know, it was such a lesson for all of us. It's like we want to attach ourselves to the narrative and attach ourselves to the idea, you know, that life is supposed to look a certain way or,
Yeah.
you know, run a certain way. And, you know, we just were so in neutral with it all. And the Buddhist, you know, the little Buddhist principles, you know, pieces I gathered along the
Yeah.
way, like we just weren't attached to any of it. We weren't attached to his body. The fact that I was supposed to go first, you know, a lot of people get attached to that narrative.
Yeah.
You know, it was exactly as it was supposed to be. And
I mean, it's funny. It's like when I hear this, it's hard to hear.
yeah,
It's hard to hear, but at the same time, when you're telling this story, sorry, I get a little choked up. It's so moving. It's such a gift that you got to.
thank you.
It's such a gift
Such
that
a
you got to live in the moment with him. So many wonderful moments,
Yeah,
and this is like he's like your teacher,
yep,
which is just
that's it.
it's incredible.
That's it. And, you know, at the end of the day, when he took his final breath in my arms, what I was left with was immense gratitude. There was so much gratitude that A, I was sober. B, I knew how to feel all these feelings that were the biggest feelings.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get any bigger than that. And I felt safe to feel them. I felt surrounded and nourished and held to feel these feelings. And Lyon needed his mama in that final breath. He needed me to walk him all the way to the veil and hold him and hold space for him. And so that's where it was exactly as it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be me going first because he needed his mama in
And
that
that's true. That's a
moment.
gift.
And that's the gift, and
Yeah.
that's the gratitude where I'm like, I got to do that
Yeah.
for this child that I loved more than anything in the world. You know, like I got to do that.
Yeah.
And really when you strip all the other titles away, it's like that is the act of the ultimate maternal love, right? Like I can work through my feelings while you're gone because I know you're free.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're everywhere. Like I know you're in this room with us right now. Like I know that. But like I'm willing to work through and I didn't bring them into the story at the end. Like I knew I would have time I would have a lifetime to work through them.
Wow. Yeah.
And we celebrated him. We celebrated his life. We did a living memorial, which was
I remember hearing about that.
amazing. Like 200 people came and everybody, you know, it was uncomfortable until it became comfortable where, you know, I was like, say what you want to say, like, go hug him. Like, don't leave any stone left unturned. Say, like, create the peace and the closure that everyone needs, and everyone got a chance to do that.
You know, that's funny. To be honest, I wanted to. It's funny. I couldn't wait to have you on because I knew we were going to get into this conversation, but I was also afraid because I was so uncomfortable with so many things like this. Like I've had friends that have died, and you know, lots of them, and they die. But it's not that. It's what do I say to the people who've lost, you know, their husband or their son? How do you, you know? And I found myself, to be honest, when these situations have happened, I don't know what to say. So I tell myself, oh, they need space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You have a little bit of fear.
I've total fear, lots of fear.
Way.
You know what I mean?
And that's a normal, you know, people have come forward and said, I'm so sorry I didn't reach out.
Because you don't know what to do.
It was too much and I didn't know what to say.
What do you say?
I didn't know what to say. You know, there's nothing you can do or say to fix it or change it. And that was one thing.
What should you say then, or
you know,
not?
just like I'm here and I love you. I'm here and I love you. And you know, after an amazing act is sending a gift card for food, Grubhub. You know, that's something that people don't think about because it's like, what do I want to do something.
Right.
They're going to need to eat.
Idea.
They don't want to cook. Sometimes meal trains, it's too much food.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we got a few of those and I was like, that is like the best thing because it's like when we need it on our terms, we can pick out the food. And so that's like this amazing gesture. Like I'm sending you this gesture, nourish yourself when you need and know that like we're thinking about you and love you.
Yeah.
And with no expectation of a response. Because you're dealing with so much. And afterwards, you know, I felt like there were hundreds of beautiful text messages coming through. Like I loved them, but I couldn't respond to every single one of them or like cards. You know, it's like the last thing you want to do is add one more thing to your plate.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, just no response needed. Just know that I love you. Here's a gift card for some food, you know, some nourishment. Like that kind of, like our house became a mortuary. There were flowers being sent, which were so beautiful, but then you got to tend to the flowers. Then the water starts getting stinky and it's like one more thing, you know, where I was like, I'm so overwhelmed by all the flowers now.
Yeah.
So it's like the food was really a sweet gesture.
And so now, just jump ahead, you're doing this.
I am. I've been doing it since 2019.
And can you tell me how does that experience work? Like, have some of the experiences that you've had, you know, or situation.
It's really such a sacred time that I feel is missed because of fear. And I really feel my work in this lifetime is to change the narrative around death.
Yeah.
You know, and to break down that wall of fear and replace it with ceremony and ritual and understanding that birth is this rite of passage, this beautiful rite of passage, and so is death. But our society, you know, is attached to this narrative of handing it to the Western world and turning and looking away and being afraid. Being afraid of a body, being afraid, like we don't know what to do. We no longer know what to do. And this is a conversation that Lyon and I talked about every single day before he left. We would have our bathroom diaries, we called them, like toilet talks, where I would sit in the bathroom with him because he would go to the bathroom for like 2 hours at a time. And he was like, Mama, you have to help change this narrative. You have to you have to help people. Like there's nothing to be afraid of. And I have them all recorded. They're so beautiful. I know.
Have you thought about publishing them in some way?
Yeah, so there's a documentary being made. And I just finished my book.
Wow, that's fantastic. Do you have a title for it?
It's called Dancing with the Veil.
Wow, we're gonna I can't wait to read that. That's incredible.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really personal stories with Lyon and I, and our whole experience, of how, my life kind of like prepared me for that moment of, losing our house and understanding that everything is impermanent.
Yeah.
And, just gathering strength for the next thing, to be able to hold that space at the veil with him. And now, what it looks like moving forward.
What about your own mortality? How do you see you know what I mean? That's
every day on the calendar. I'm like one day closer, one day closer. I have no fear. You know, I know that this body is so temporary, and I know my soul is infinite, and this life is one page in a book that never ends. So I'm not going to get so attached to one page in a book that never ends. So I just wake up every day and I'm like, how can I live for him? How can I live life to the fullest for the people whose lives were cut short, who fought to live?
I love that.
So it's like I wake up and I'm like, okay, Lyon, Steve, John, like just infuse me with your zest. Like, what is it? And I will, I don't waste it.
Yeah.
I just live as big as I possibly can and learn as much as I can. And it's not textbook learning. It's, just from situations, like every situation that feels uncomfortable to me, I dive deep. It's like, what do I need to learn from this? What is my soul trying to like nudge me towards? And when Lyon died, like I would or before, days before, I would hold his face and I'm like, you're graduating, sweetie. You got it. Like you learned everything that you came here to learn in this body.
How do you now transmit this to others?
So here's the thing. I'm in a situation right now with someone getting close, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of denial, and it's really heartbreaking because
is it a female or a male?
A female.
And is her family in the same sort of fear?
Family's in more acceptance. I've had one-on-ones with all of them, and it's actually a family member.
Okay.
To me as well, but there's just this inherent fear of and unacceptance and a lack of neutrality. There's an attachment to one side, and that's the thing with Lyon. I was like, we're going to idle in neutral every single day and just stay in the eye of the hurricane. Like there's this hurricane happening, right? The mind will like, and so we're going to idle in neutral and not put the car in drive or reverse and just stay here, like held, connected to God, connected to the earth. You still have your body. And that's the safe place to be. So when there's resistance with people I work with, I just have to meet them where they're at. I have to meet them where they're at.
What does that mean exactly?
It's if they're holding on to the 1%, if they've been given a diagnosis of, there's a 1% survival and they're like, I'm that 1%. And logically, there's the clinical and logical side where you look at labs and look at, you're like, but there's also the soul, contract that we don't get to see. So wherever she's at, I'm going to meet her there. And if it's, I'm going to fight till the end in the hospital with drains and tubes, then you know what? I'm going to create ceremony in this space with you and create an altar in the hospital and do what I do in that space. And I'm just going to meet you there, And so, a lot of times I get called in, within the 24, 48 hour period and guide the family to create ceremony with the body. And, give them permission, like, hey, you don't have to call the mortuary right away. Right. We're so conditioned to think like dead body, take it away. Yes. And I'm like, no. That's where we lack closure.
Yeah.
Like sit with the body. I'll sit with you, let's create ceremony. And when you're ready, it may be 9.5 hours we had Lyon,
Yeah.
on his bed. And we bathed him and anointed him and shrouded him and just held space. And, like, I think like 200 people ended up coming into our home and just, being in the room with him. And it's like, that's what we needed to have the closure. And people don't know that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's funny. We had, when my father-in-law died,
Yeah.
he and I had a very tumultuous relationship for a long time. But in the end, we came back around and got very close again through, pretty much because of my son, because he wanted to be a part of his life more in sports and stuff. But anyway, he died, but he and I got pretty close again before he died. And the most amazing, and I never gotten to do this, when he died, they let us be in the room with him.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things ever, somebody told me that you can touch him, and it was like they gave me permission. And I was like, first I was super uncomfortable standing there. I don't know, my wife and my mother-in-law, like, should I be doing this? And
Yes.
and I went up and I touched him and I held his hand and I felt his arm and his shoulders.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing I could have done. It was amazing.
It's really important, and it's something that, our culture lacks.
Yeah.
Our Western American, like, we don't know what to do. But with Lyon, it was really cool. I'm like sweating balls.
Yeah,
in
there's,
here.
I know, we got
With Lyon, it was really cool because it was all of his friends that he grew up with, and they were all around 30 years old, and I brought them into this world, invited them in. I didn't bring them in. I invited them in, and we let the elephant out of the closet, and we were like, here it is. Let's talk, let's just sit with this. And so I laid in bed with Lyon for about 30 minutes after he had passed, just to kind of have that closure. And then I invited everybody in, and his closest crew, and they come in the room, and, Lyon's vessel is there, his soul's in the room. And they're like, what do we do? And, so the first thing I did was just pull every drain out of him. I was like, you're free. Like, this is done. And I was like, let's bathe him. And they had no idea what to do. And I'm like, go get warm bowls with washcloths with soapy water. And so it was like 12 hands, and we all just gently bathed his entire body and
So
just
beautiful.
honored. And then, I used old like biblical oils, frankincense and myrrh, sandalwood, with a jojoba base, and we just massaged him and glistened him. And then I swaddled him in this beautiful old Indian tapestry. And then we just laid earth. We brought ocean water and put it all over his face and put sand over his body. So he was swaddled at that point. And for the 9 hours, everybody just brought flowers and earth. And, they went foraging in the back hills. And it was like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
That's what you just explained as you're telling this story. That's what I'm really getting.
Yeah. So there was this closure, and there was this ceremony, instead of like the difference of if he took his final breath and they called the mortuary, they would have zipped him up in the bag and taken him, and there wouldn't have been this beauty attached to it.
Yeah, it's a you've turned it into, which is true. I mean, just the whole story of you and Lyon, it's this beautiful journey where you guys are going towards death, if that's what you want to call it. I don't even feel like calling it that anymore.
Yeah.
But you're going on this sort of spiritual journey
Yeah.
together, and you've turned it into, instead of something that's some fear-based, it's not. You've taken it to you've just drained every wonderful moment out of the whole experience to the very end, and even beyond that,
Beyond.
to this beautiful experience.
Yeah. And all his friends were like, I had no idea. But now, so many of them were, said, now I know what to do when a family member of mine dies. Now I know. And it's like the ripple effect, the pebble in the pond. Now it's their job to bring that awareness out, that it doesn't have to be this like black or white, take them away. Like, we're allowed to create ritual with the people that we love. Every other culture does it. We don't.
And will the book be this?
The book is very much about that.
That's,
Dancing with the
man,
Veil.
that's
so
incredible.
it's the ceremony after, and it's the healing that comes from that space. And so much of it, my recovery's woven in there, how I learned how to sit and find beauty in these spaces that used to scare me,
Right.
so bad, and hold space for that. It's really, it's just such a gift, the wildness of my childhood, the destruction of my alcoholism, all these things that I could attach myself to inherently thinking that they're bad, but they were all just these gifts, these
Yeah.
gifts to kind of expand me and push me, a little further to sit with that and now be able to share something
Share
so
this gift,
powerful,
yeah.
right? Like,
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea that that this conversation we were going to have was going to be, I mean, honestly, this moving, beautiful experience that at first I was kind of like,
yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. The part of recovery, I love everybody's story. I'm in
Yeah.
recovery forever, but it's like this went in a direction
Yeah.
that taught me something, that I could not get anywhere else.
yeah.
And what's
I love
great is,
that. It's not a common topic,
No.
but it's funny. All my friends are like, you're the death whisperer. So anytime I'm around, if I'm like in a crowd, there's always someone telling me about their most recent death experience, or someone's on hospice, and
Wow.
what I get the calls. And it's my favorite conversation because it's so taboo.
yeah,
And there's so much fear around it that I just want to like shine a light on it,
Yeah.
that it's not scary. There shouldn't be this fear, like we need to just really look at death as this beautiful rite of passage, just as they're going home, they're graduating.
Well, it's
What a
funny.
beautiful life these souls have lived, and it's
Yeah.
okay.
I had a friend. It was my Eskimo when I got sober. My buddy Nathan, and he was Malibu. Did you know Nathan Heydrich? Do you remember Nathan?
No.
He's older, obviously. But Nathan was diagnosed with cancer,
Oh,
and then within a couple years, he was gone. Right, and he had moved to Orange County. We'd kind of drifted, but the most incredible thing was, I went to, it's one of those things where I walked through the fear. I didn't know anybody. He had sort of set up a new life for himself in the South Bay, or and actually down in San Diego. And I went, and I was kind of like making myself go to the funeral, even though I didn't know anybody there, and his new wife, and not new, but 10 years now. But I'm going to tell you something. That was the most incredible thing, was because whenever I would get in this pity-potty place of what kind of shitty day I'm having, and I can't get into the moment,
yeah.
I would think about Nathan,
Yeah,
right? And I would think, Nathan would love to be stuck on the freeway with me right now,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
And there's all these lessons that you can find, it seems to me, and what you taught me today, just through the experience of passing on. It's one of the greatest lessons that you could learn of what you got to share here today. I mean, it was just incredible for me.
Thank you.
How much time are we doing? All right. Well, gosh, I don't even know what to say. That was so fantastic, so unexpected. I mean, I knew it was going to be fantastic.
Thanks,
But I mean,
Nick.
the emotion that you brought to it, and the lesson that I got from it, which is one of my favorite things about doing this podcast. I get to learn something, and you taught me a lot today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And it's funny. I'll find a space to talk about Lyon every single day, or my sorrow will calcify. Like
Wow.
I have to just and being able to sit for an hour and share our story and our truth and shine a light on it and see the beauty in it. It's such a gift. So being able to share this means a lot to me. Thank you.
Oh, love it. Love you. That was so fantastic. What
Thanks,
about
buddy.
the book? When's the book coming out?
So the book is still in like publishing, early infant phases, but it will be announced on my social media once it's available.
When it's out,
Dancing with the Veil.
You have to come back
I will.
when it's out and I've read it. So we can talk about it.
Okay.
I would love to do that.
Yeah,
We would
it's
do
rad
that.
because I did imagery in it too.
Oh,
So
awesome.
with like you read a chapter and you're
Yeah.
like, what did John look like? What
Right.
did Steve look like? So there's like, you know, in John's chapter of, you know, when he died and all the lessons that were learned. There's
Yeah.
like pictures of him in Lyon and him skating a bowl. And
Oh, that's great.
so it's cool. It's like this imagery along with, you know, each chapter. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that, guys. Right?
I mean,
Great.
what more could you want?
Nothing
Pictures.
more. That was the best. Another savory conversation on Unsavory Fellow.
Hello.